Hello. Sorry, I'm a little sick. But my name is Crystal Baez, and I'm currently discussing minority stress within the workplace. To start off, I want to talk about a little bit about my experiences. I'm currently working in the RV factory, and it's pretty difficult. I may say I've never worked in a factory before. I've always had customer service jobs or worked on campus, but due to COVID and living out here in Indiana, making the move from California, I live basically in the state capital of the RV industry, and so my whole family grew up in the RV, and that's all we've ever known. So it kind of put me in that position to do RV, and so I am currently a sealer and an outside cleaner. I get up every day at 3:30 in the morning, and I start work at 4:20. I'm There are some jobs in the RV factories where you don't get out till 4:30 p.m. So you're there from, sorry, time difference is really off for me too as well. But you start your day from 4:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon, which is a 12-hour day. If you can't tell from the bags under my eyes, I am really tired most of the time. I want to sleep. I have no motivation for anything, but because of the RV industry, my family's kind of not relied on school. They don't see it as a way to be successful. They see it as like you need to physically, tangibly work hard rather than be smart and work hard through school. So that's been pretty hard. I have a couple articles that I read over. The first one is testing the tenets of minority stress theory in workplace contexts. Because we work in RV industry, a lot of my family, personally, speaking out of my own experience, grew up without papers. So when they joined worked in the RV industry, they had to be under a different name. Couldn't really be paid on a payroll. It was always under the table, which is paid in cash, and sometimes they're not fully paid because they're not technically employees. And my dad actually had dealt with that for years up until he got his citizenship, and it was really rough because my mom had taken care of 7 kids off her income and his income, and there was always a risk of deportation every single day. He drove to school, well, to work, not school. So that was really rough growing up, seeing that as a kid, not knowing whether your parent would come home that day or you wouldn't see him for a while. So in this article, it discusses workplace discrimination, expectations of stigma, internalized heteroism, and identity management strategies with certain like different RV factories. For example, Keystone are really bad to employees. I actually had my sister work there for like 4 years, and it was terrible. Excuse my yawning. You might get it too, it's contagious. It was a toxic environment, you know. Surprisingly, Hispanic women are really mean to each other, and actually had a friend who was Caucasian who works in Keystone currently, and she wanted to make the move over to where I work, which is called Grand Design, and it's a really cool company because I get off every day, sometimes early. And they're mean, like brutal, like talk very mean in different languages, and kind of, it's just terrible, you know? Like, we as women shouldn't be bringing down other people because we think we have the right to do it. I just personally don't understand it. But in this one article, he discusses the minority stress theory and the literature on the patterns of mediation and moderation that were tested. There's a lot of discrimination within workplaces that a lot of people don't know about or aren't noted. So, Betty, can you not do that? What I went through, not even in RV Factory and Starbucks, I was told that when you put your 2 weeks notice, obviously it's 2 weeks, I had to work additional weeks because I couldn't find a replacement. Which in my case, at the moment, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't find a replacement, so I have to stay here. But no, I have a legal right to give my 2 week notice. I will work my 2 weeks and I will leave. And because of that, my manager took advantage of my no knowledge of how it works but 2 week notice. And I was there for a while. And I had tips stolen from me. I had hours taken off my payroll. I was making $450 every 2 weeks, living off that for a couple months. And that's when I decided, no, I am going to go into the RV industry. I currently don't want to be there for the rest of my life. Some people choose it because they think, it's what makes them successful. But I want to use that as a foundation to get successful. Well, in this article, it discusses that higher levels of disclosure strategy are associated with higher job satisfaction in the context of low discrimination. So, for example, in Grand Design, the company that I work with, our group leader is amazing. He has such great communication skills. Right now, we're all on salary. We're making great. We're currently bringing home the same every single week. Although if we were getting off earlier, losing hours, it didn't matter. And it increases job satisfaction. I work harder knowing at the Friday's payday tomorrow. I work harder knowing that I'm going to get an amazing paycheck. And my paycheck's roughly, I take home $1,100, $1,200 take home. My net gross is almost $1,600. And to be able to say that, I'm like, wow, I've never had a job that actually cared enough to pay me what I'm working. Because we do 30-minute line rolls where they built an RV from the ground up, and I am the one that seals the voids from any cracks from getting the rain in there, water to avoid mildew, and I also clean the whole outside of the unit. And sometimes it's rough. Sometimes I'm sick and I have to get up at 3:30 in the morning and I'm groggy and I'm tired, but I do it every day. It's just a routine, something that you have to do because I don't have any help. I don't have the funds to do it without it. So it's rough. So another article, the impact of minority stress on mental health and substance use among sexual minority women. I struggled a lot with anxiety and depression, being raised in Hispanic culture, you aren't allowed to have anxiety or depression. You aren't allowed to have feelings. You just get up and you have to do it regardless. And it was hard. I was sexually molested for many years. I was raped my first year of college, and it was my fault because I asked for it. And that is what it is in Hispanic culture, and it's sad. No women should ever go through that, and because of that, my depression and my anxiety stemmed and increased really bad until I moved out here to Indiana to make a change and to better myself. Even though I look like a crazy mess, I promise I'm not. I'm happy. And it's hard because even when I did go to a therapist, I couldn't really communicate my emotions because I'm so used to growing up as you can't speak about your feelings. You need to bottle them up and move on because at the end of the day, life moves on. So to sit there and actually communicate how I felt was really hard. It was really hard even opening up to my family because my mom for a really long time blocked out those memories and was like, I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened to you. And as a kid, you're like, am I crazy because it didn't? When it did, it's just really weird. So in this, they examine the direct and indirect impact of minority stress on mental health. They completed a questionnaire with assessing gender expression, minority stressors, social psychological resources, and there were indirect effects of minority stress on health outcomes. Direct links emerged between victimization and substance abuse. So part of the reason why I partied a lot in college and I kind of blacked out and drank and did dumb things was to suppress all that I was feeling. I thought, oh, if I get drunk, it'll be fine. I'll move past it, I'll get over it. And I ended up being an emotional wreck. And now I'm here to say that I am saved. I am currently, working on music, serving on a worship team, and I'm with my family. So it's amazing to be able to do that, because a lot of people can't. I have family members right now that are currently struggling with lustful desires and just things that, like, as a 20-year-old, you don't want to see them doing. You want them to thrive. So, but because of how we grew up, with the stigma that, as a 5-year-old little girl, you need to be the one to change, not the 15-year-old boy who's trying to get up on you, because there's no excuse for him. He's a man. And that's where machismo comes in. And it's another conversation that I can get into and I get real upset about because it isn't right. But we're going to move on. And then the other article that I liked was Minority Stress Related to Employees' Demographics and Development of Intersectional Framework of Their Coping Strategies in the Workplace. So currently, when I get to work and I'm tired, and I mean, like, I'm driving with no batteries in my body. I'm just driving to drive, and I've crashed before because of sleeping. And so I usually chug Monsters. I chug Bangs, I chug anything that could give me some sense of, like, okay, I'm alive. And it's sad. I want to grow, have kids, and I don't want them to ever struggle or work in RV like I'm working right now. They can work normal jobs, 9 to 5, and go to college and be successful. And for a long time, I was good at school. I had motivation. I wanted to do it. I was the first in my family to even, like, go to UC San Diego, and I know this is going to be emotional. I always get emotional with whatever I talk about, but now it's like I feel like I'm always failing. I'm always picking between work and school, and, like, do I work to pay my bills, or do I settle and get that C or even fail? And, like, right now it's my first quarterback at UCSD and I'm already struggling. I'm trying to find that balance, and I have found that balance. I'm really, like, trying to get used to it. And I want to stay, and I want to graduate, and I want to be the first in my family to have my bachelor's, because I want to break that generational curse, that I want to break that chain. So in this one, article embodies manifestations of every demographic that attaches to a different minority and their status, and how it involves the hierarchy, employees, and how they hold positions. Hold on, give me a second, I'm gonna sneeze. I apologize. I'm also sick. And it's for usually the time where I get my allergies, so I apologize if this presentation is a little messy. They also discuss individuals' coping strategies and their behavior in terms of minority stress due to organizational processes of hierarchization. I don't know if I said that right. People usually, when minorities, based on what I've experienced, no matter if you're sick, if you are broken, you still need to go up and you need to do the work regardless. It's like we don't have any mercy or grace on each other, and it's like you need to do the job right the first time, and if you don't, that's fine, but the second time, it should never happen again. And I struggle with that because I make mistakes. I'm clumsy. I fell face flat on my face, obviously, twice at work the other day. And when we work on cement, concrete, I deal with machinery like it's legit a factory, and it sucks because I'm sitting there sweating. Like, I had first degree burns because of citrus that I use. It's hard and it's rough, and we don't really cope. We kind of just are robots, and we work just to work. And so in this one, it discusses coping resources for coping with minority stress because of another dimension. I didn't quite understand that, but I did understand that coping behavior can include disclosure decisions about invisible demographics. So we tend to think that we aren't worth a lot. We tend to think that we don't need to be here and we don't need to be working, but how do I describe it? We tend to think that all we are good for is to work, and that's all it is. And it's sad, you know? I look back at my parents and I want them to be, you know, already retired, house paid off, live in Mexico, and they're almost 50 years old working in a factory trying to make ends meet. And it breaks my heart because I'm here and I'm like trying to figure out what it is I can do to be successful, to break that chain from them and to put them to where they need to be, because as children we need to honor our parents. And so that is my presentation, minority stress. And it's general, it's so broad because growing up, you know, like from personal experiences, I feared white people, you know. I didn't have great experiences with them. My sister married a racist one and he made it known every day that we weren't good, that we were just good for work, you know. They could hire one to fix all his problems and that's their job, not his. But as I got closer to with like one of my closest friends at ASA, she is white, and it opened my eyes that not everyone is like that, but also not everyone struggles with the same problems. And it taught me how to be humble, showed me humility, and I'm grateful for that. I mean, without minority stress, we wouldn't be where we are today. I mean, most of the produce that we get today is because of a lot of Hispanics in third world countries that work on the fields that get nothing, literally get paid nothing just in order for us to have lettuce, strawberries. And today I was eating those blueberries, kind of talking about it with my sister, and it, like, if we didn't have that, cost increases for food would increase. It would be a scarcity. It would be like a resource that's very limited. And I'm so grateful for my background. I'm grateful for the people that are working regardless of the race. Like, we all pitch in and do something for each other. And I feel like minority stress needs to be more aware and it needs to be brought to light, at least, and be acknowledged and appreciated about those around us, and that we do work hard. Although on the outside it seems like, for me, I'm a student who isn't really passing, and I'm a student who seems like who doesn't care, but behind the scenes I'm a student who's working 3:30 in the morning until they finish 7 units, which is 7 RVs, until they're built, cleaned, and washed. And I get home and I'm tired, I'm beat, I'm sick, I have bruises, burns, just in order to make ends meet. And that's one thing I wish schools connected more to students, you know, learn more about where they come from, what they're doing, why. I choose work over happiness, because it's how we live. We work, we pay, and that is just us. So that's my presentation. Thank you.